Hey there, welcome aboard Alegria once again. This time around we're going to have a second go at the engine. Last time around I think there was one bolt that was just way too stubborn to go. So I've brought gear. And the gear is a couple of things that are probably going to be very useful. We have here is braking fluid. This is supposed to be very good at just removing anything that is stuck. Also going to be useful for making sure it doesn't get stuck again. This is something actually got recommended to me by ChatGPT. It's called turbo spray, and supposedly it is yet another lubricant which also removes corrosion, and that sounds exactly what we're going to need. Next, a scraper to get rid of that, well, whatever was left of the sealant. Not a whole lot left in that regard, but enough left to be an annoyance, so that's going to be that. Steel brush, just to clean off any surface that I think is going to need a new sort of sealant. And finally some, what was that again? I think it was copper grease, ceramic fluid stuff, to make sure again that things don't get stuck once more. My first weapon of choice is going to be the turbo spray, just to see if this thing actually works as well as advertised to get that last bolt unstuck. Two other potentially very useful items, a rubber hammer. I intend to use that on this part. It doesn't strictly damage the part, it just causes vibrations, a sort of shockwaves if you will, that supposedly just breaks the whole corrosion apart. And some gloves, because last time around I had, I think I still have it. This is like a few days after the fact. I still, on some fingers, have some dark grime under my nails. And I don't like that. So that's gotta go. That's why we have these, and also because I intend to replace the fuel filters, which will inevitably leak some sort of diesel. Or, well, HVO 100 is what I'm using. It's not great for your hands, so gotta make sure those are protected. As I'm waiting for that turbo spray stuff to get, well, some of the corrosion removed. This is that old sealant that I showed. This scraper is fantastic. I'd say it works a lot better than it did with a screwdriver. It has a sort of small tip to it, and it is supposedly not damaging to the part underneath it. So this little thing, fantastic. Look at that. It comes right off. Well, sort of. I mean, supposedly this thing is removable. I can tell you it is in fact removable, just no longer as an intact component. I do have the new one which arrived today, and I'm very eager to place that back. Of course, that will come later. But first, this whole thing still has to come off. Of course, yes, you could make the case, why are you doing this now? Especially when the whole thing is supposed to come off. Well, I was just curious to see how good it was going to work. And I am not disappointed. This thing is great. I'm not trying to advertise for it, it's just never used one of these, so I thought I'd share. Look at that. This is supposed to be sealant, or, well, I've forgotten the English term for it. It is now more akin to wallpaper. I'm happy to report the turbo spray seems to have worked. I'm new to using this harness. I'm finally getting movement in the last bolt. It is happening. And that means we can probably start to remove this heat exchanger. Let's try not to drop the bolt into the bilge, because that would mean having to waterboard my magnet on a stick again. And I'd rather not. Come on. So, you, my friend, were the culprit. This thing was holding me back. And now I've won. I swear this goes into one of the buckets. Yeah, it looks about similar. You're going in there. Okay, so, does that mean this thing is now free to go? Apologies. Yes and no. Like, it'll move. That's the good news. The downside is it appears to be stuck down there. And I don't know why. I've also flooded this whole area with additional turbo spray. This crack right here appears to be the problem. As you can see, there is a bit more of a crack over there too. That was done by my new friend. And those shockwaves appear to be working, but this line, heavily corroded. So that's where it's probably stuck right now. This thing is supposed to come off in two parts, right? This is one section, and that joins up there. And then everything else is supposedly separate. Supposedly. In practice, I'm not really noticing the separation of powers here. So, you know, as the engineers say, let's give it a bang and see if it works. Because it has to come off somehow. And the challenge is I can't really hammer here. I don't really... I can give it some taps, but I can't really get that big swing like I do there. If I, however, can crack this thing and make sure it's no longer aligned with that, I can just tear this part off. Adjust the camera. I could tear this part off and then see how we'll address this guy here. So that means this thing has to be further separated. And here's another thing. It has to come out vertically. Otherwise this thing gets in the way. This is going to cause me issues. So this thing has to come off one way or another. Alright. More of the stuff. So far it's served me quite well. So let's see if it wants to do that again. Just separate this out. More turbo spray there. More of the stuff here. Maybe some of the underside there. I'm really happy that this thing has one of those, what do you call that? One of those adjustable nozzles. That allows me to get in there, ish. Mostly ish, because it's not really that eager to do that. I might need to let this thing soak for a minute and just give it some time to figure out that the corrosion is no longer welcome here. Back in the first video, I was trying to open a valve. This one. It was right on the outside, sitting like that. And with that positioning, actually, was it like that? Yeah, it was like that. This was supposedly going to open a valve and allow me to get in there, right? And now I understand why it won't fucking open. There's nothing left. This is supposed to have a bit of lining in it. It's supposed to be a screw. This thing is just fused to the rest of the part. Like... It all makes sense now. It just makes me a bit concerned about what else I'm going to find. As a bit of a break, because this thing just won't budge, and I'm getting a little desperate because, good lord. I was planning on changing the fuel filters. That turned into the impeller, that turned into the heat exchanger getting removed. That's just... I'm finding one obstacle after another. It's like people, I don't know, never gave a shit about the engine. And I'm hoping I can fix it. Because the alternative is not pretty. The way I see it, the alternative would be to install an entirely new engine. Now that might be an entire leap. Might not need to come to that. But I did order a package right here. And this package is containing all sorts of spare parts. So my plan is figure out what is in the part that I'm trying to disassemble by figuring out what is in the replacement part. This way, I'm hoping to figure out what I still need to find in the engine. Or rather, not so much in the engine, but in the part that I'm trying to disassemble. so let's have a look. I used a web shop from Bulgaria to ship me this stuff. I'm in the Netherlands, so why Bulgaria? Well, whoops, there goes the table. Why Bulgaria? Well, Bulgaria is about 50% cheaper than if I were to buy it here. I thought that seemed like a pretty steep margin. And I don't want that. Anyway, if it does come to replacing the engine, I am probably looking at multi-thousand euro expense, which is not what I want to spend. Maybe it is required, and I actually bought a lemon, but I'm first gonna try and make lemonade before... Sorry about this wobbly table, it's not great. I'm gonna try and make some lemonade before resorting to this, because right now the ship isn't even mobile. Because the engine's half disassembled, well, not even half disassembled, if only it worked. The engine is partly disassembled, especially the heat exchanger bolts are loose. Of course, we've got a leaky impeller pump. The bilge is half full of water, and all of this stuff means that I probably cannot very much move. Camera fell down. That I probably cannot very much move the whole thing. So that would mean either the whole thing's going to have to go done here in the slip, or I'm going to have this thing somehow towed to a shop, which probably isn't cheap either. So none of it is great. Okay. This is a Rekmar oil filter, so that is going to come later. I also have a couple of these 296 filter elements. That is what started this whole quest, because that is the part that I was originally trying to fix. What I'm trying to get to here is this thing. Gasket set for heat exchanger. So let's see what exactly we're going to find in here, because then I can probably place what I haven't found. I'm laughing at that because it's pretty much what I haven't dug out at this point. Alright, this one, I know where this goes. This goes onto the side of the whole thing. So that's one. Let me make sure I don't lose any parts. This is just packing. That's a drain plug of some sort. And we have yet another filter element. So I'm going to put all the filter elements back in here. I'm going to put the oil filter back in there. That thing goes back in there. A couple of O-rings. Not 100% where that goes. But that is, I think, part of this kit here. Yeah. Alright, come along with me. Because I think I know where this goes. This looks like it ought to go on there. Right? Right there. There is also a second one. This one probably goes on there, just on the opposite side, which is what I'm fighting right now, which is why this whole heat exchanger tube set cannot come out, because the current gasket has decided to vacuum itself onto the part. The thing that I'm trying to figure out is, over there, is there a gasket that has that sort of shape? So it's like an oval. Let's see if we can find an oval. Because then I know if I'm facing a gasket of some sort or not. And the answer appears to be no. Oh, this is for the impeller. I recognize that shape from when I was looking into it online. This is not it, because I removed 4 bolts, not 6. Not 100% where that's for, but it seems to be another sealant ring. We've got another gasket and another one. Okay, so what I'm dealing with might not be a gasket. It might be corrosion. Just intense corrosion. Which isn't necessarily giving me a very happy feeling, because it's not good news. As I was saying, I am at some point a bit desperate. because replacing the whole engine would probably set me back another 5k or so. I don't really have that available for the boat. I don't want to dig into my reserves that much for something that I have for fun. And I would actually much rather spend some more free time on it, trying to figure it out, maybe just let it soak overnight with more of the turbo spray to remove corrosion, than having to dish out a few K. But trying to remove the parts, I have noticed, is also severing some electronic connections. I think I accidentally removed one, or it was already loose, or I don't know, it might not even be doing anything. So every time that I'm making some progress, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I don't know if 2 steps back is entirely fair. Maybe I'm not as far as I think. So it's not 2 steps back, it's figuring out from a new vantage point where you actually were, which was not as far as you thought. At any rate, I'm learning a lot about the engine, which is good, but progress is so creepingly slow that it is distinctly unfun at this point. So I might call it a day for today and just spray the whole thing down with additional turbo spray, let it soak overnight, and have another go tomorrow. At this point, I've made quite a bit of progress, and I'm finding this thing. This is not great. Because it seems like it's just, I don't know, it's parked over the thing that I need to get to. Also, there's the whole fuel filter here. Well, one of the fuel filters, that is, this guy over here, or it's an oil filter, whatever, it needs to go. And the one bolt, I'm not sure if you can see it, it's right about there, it's kind of bumping up against that thing. I'm doing everything in reverse. So that means it's a bit difficult to get to. I have to figure out how to turn this thing, because it was a sort of little crane that came off of it. Probably, I think, some sort of drain plug. I just don't really understand, if you don't know about engines, how you are supposed to figure this out. Because I, for one, have the virtue of using a camera. But I imagine not everybody does. And if you don't have that, then how are you going to get to it? How are you going to figure that this is a problem? Also, will this pass through or not? Because it might be too big. Yeah, this thing, let's see if I can point it out. This is just very difficult to get to. I mostly did that by hand, sort of bear hugging the engine flat on my belly, trying to rotate that thing one bit by bit. And we're getting there, but can that thing turn 360? Because if it doesn't, then I don't know how to get it off. Victory! That one is out. It came with this thing over here, and that was attached to each other. I just don't really think it did a whole lot, because look at the amount of shit and gunk in here. I'm not sure if the camera wants to focus on that. It is pretty clogged. There is very, very little ability for fluid to pass through that, I imagine. So maybe we're going to have to clean that. Just maybe. Victory! We got him off. Finally, it took a long time. Now, the thing that actually turned out to be the culprit holding everything into place was a little crane. This is the heat exchanger, by the way. Sorry, not a crane. A little exhaust thingy that was here. And that's why the whole thing couldn't move up, and that held everything in place. So now we can actually see what the state of affairs is down here. And this big bracket is the one which is holding up, I think, the impeller pump, which is down there, if I'm not mistaken. So that thing holds the impeller. I believe that one of these was leaking down here. So that gasket's going to have to get replaced, which means I'm going to remove this one here, which shouldn't collapse the whole engine down on itself, ideally, but one can never be too certain. Yeah, there's one here. There's one there. There's probably another one all the way down here. Right there. So I'm going to take those three off. That should remove this big bracket, allowing me to get better access to the impeller pump. And that one too got removed. One bolt there, a bolt over there, and a bolt over there removed. And there she is. That's our bracket that's holding up that side. That means we are getting closer, finally. Now I'm going to figure out how to get these things off here. This one, that one, looks like a hex key. Though it's apparently for the camera a bit too dark to figure that out. These hex keys are going to have to go in like that. Remove that. This piece is going to come off, and then I can remove that and that. This this gasket is the one I need to replace. That's what started this little enterprise. Speaking of enterprises, I also started out this whole thing with trying to replace these, the fuel filters, and I found another one. I have three. Now, these fuel filters are apparently there to ensure that I have several different layers of filtration, and I am presently figuring out how to get rid of them. Well, not rid of them, how to detach them. Because what I can see here is one going in there, one going out there. This is probably the big filter that has a coarse filter in it. This is a more fine filter, and well, it still says Volvo Penta. I'm not sure how old that one is. I am also not 100% on how to remove it. I'm thinking maybe this one. So this one holds it into place somehow. I can then just pop the whole unit off, and that ought to be that. I did remove this thing. I'm not sure if that was ever required, but we removed it, so here we are. For now, focusing on this one, hex keys and removal. In my ventures to get this thing off, I was working on this hex key, and I pulled it forward a bit, and it just went bloop. I thought, oh, still a bit of coolant water coming out. So that is the whole thing. How about that? How about that? This thing still has to come off, because that is our OG culprit. You can, I think it's, not 100% where exactly it was leaking, but one of those sides. So, probably over there. That's going to require a new gasket, which I have. This is going to require a new impeller, which I have. This is going to require potentially some deoxidation. Anti-corrosion. And over here we have something that I think is driving a pump, which is this one here. I am honestly not 100% what that is. So I'm going to ask my good friend ChatGPT to figure out what I am looking at, because I suspect it's quite important. Right. It's definitely rotating something. It's rotating the impeller, I think. That's what it's probably for, because this thing is attached to that, which rotates something in there. So that is going to be the next part. Just taking that apart, both there and there, replacing the impeller, which is probably in there, replacing the gasket over there. I gotta say, it's rather refreshing not having to do boat yoga for a second. I have been bear hugging this engine. I have been upside down next to the engine, like that. And now I'm finally mostly upright. So let's undo these things here and see where we end up. At least these are, go away, so distinct that I know where they're gonna go. Come on, stay out of my face. You know what? Just good day. A bit more oxygen in the whole boat would be nice. Now, I gotta say, I feel a lot better than I did yesterday. And yesterday I was very tired, and I was feeling quite defeated. Like, is that gonna work? Am I able to fix this boat? I don't know. I feel a bit more optimistic right now. Because now at least we're making progress. Now at least I am moving forward rather than going, why are you not coming off? Which part is holding you back? And now I know. Now I know. And that is very satisfying. So, if you're doing new boat maintenance like me, you might go from, oh wow, this is great, to holy shit, what am I doing? Very quickly. Back and forth like that. At least that's how it works for me. Now, it looks like this impeller thing, this little hatch, is not quite coming off. You can see there's definitely a little bit of a creak there, but not here. So we're going to have to motivate it slightly. I really enjoy this new gasket removal thing that I got. It is very handy. Yes, 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 yes. We have movement. What am I going to find here? What treasures do you hold? Haha. Oh man, this is satisfying. Behold, the impeller. This part rotates and pushes water up through the engine. And if I understand it correctly, the part was in the engine like that. Water flows in through here and then gets rotated up through there. So this side is doing nothing more than just making the thing go round and round and round. I'm going to take a quick picture of this to know which way it's pointing. I gotta say, it's not even in a bad shape. It doesn't seem worn out. So that's good, I guess. That's good. That does beg the question, do I need to replace it? I'm not sure. Maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can keep it as is. A bit of back and forth there. Because, excuse me, on the one hand I'm thinking, well, I'm here anyway. Boat life. I'm here anyway, I might as well replace it. On the other hand, I'm going, well, doesn't look that bad, so why would I? Well, because I'm not doing this again anytime soon. That's for sure. I want to move with the boat. I want to go places, not be stuck doing maintenance for days at a time. So no thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to replace it. I am going to replace it. But I will do that in the next part, in the next episode, in the next video, because this one has gone on for long enough, I think. As you can see, it's quite the roller coaster. Sometimes you're going, Jesus, what have I done? And how am I going to fix this? And other times you're going, yes, I got the part off. I can make progress again. Especially in the face of a lot of corrosion, in the face of a lot of parts which absolutely did not want to move and had to get persuaded either by force of hammer or by, well, let's say plenty of use of turbo spray. That stuff has really come through, and I really intend to use that more in case I find more stuck stuff. So, thank you for watching. Maybe by the time that you're watching this, I will have already progressed and hopefully be well on my way to fixing the whole thing. For now, thank you, hope you've enjoyed, and I shall see you soon for more boat maintenance and hopefully other adventures on Alegria. See you there.